The crack of the gavel didn't sound like justice to the people of Cook County. To hundreds of innocent families, it sounded like the lid of a coffin slamming shut forever. Judge Elena Vance believed she was untouchable. Wrapped in black robes and protected by the system, she ruled her courtroom like a queen who answered to no one. Every defendant who stood before her was already guilty in her eyes. Especially Marcus Thorne. The moment she saw him, she made up her mind. Another thug. Another statistic. Another body to feed into the machine that made her rich. She mocked him openly. She ignored his rights. She laughed at him in front of a packed courtroom. But Elena Vance made one catastrophic mistake. She never realized the man standing before her in handcuffs wasn't a criminal at all. He was the FBI agent leading the investigation against her. And every word she spoke was being recorded. The holding cell inside Chicago's 14th district smelled like bleach, sweat, and hopelessness. Marcus knew the scent well. Normally, he stood on the opposite side of the bars wearing a tailored suit and an FBI badge. Today was different. Today he wore a stained gray hoodie, old jeans, and worn Timberlands. Sitting quietly on the steel bench, he looked exactly like the kind of man Judge Vance loved to destroy. To the officers walking by, he was nothing more than inmate number 49N01, arrested for assaulting a police officer and resisting arrest. But Marcus wasn't broken. He was hunting. "Hey, man," a nervous teenager whispered from the corner of the cell. "You got Vance?" Marcus slowly lifted his head. "Yeah." The kid shook his head. "Then you're finished. She destroys people. Doesn't matter if you're innocent." Marcus stayed silent. He couldn't explain that Judge Elena Vance had been under federal investigation for 8 months. The FBI had uncovered evidence of a massive corruption scheme involving private prisons, illegal kickbacks, and targeted sentencing. Young defendants, especially poor minorities, were being funneled into harsh detention facilities for profit. Every road led back to one person, Judge Elena Vance. But financial records weren't enough. The FBI needed proof of deliberate abuse of power inside the courtroom itself. They needed her exposed on record. Marcus volunteered to be the bait. The arrest had been staged perfectly. Officer Derek Miller, one of Vance's corrupt cops, pulled Marcus over using a fake broken taillight violation. The officer escalated the stop exactly as predicted, planted narcotics on Marcus, and charged him with assault. Now the trap was set. A heavy-set bailiff rattled his keys as he approached the cell. "Marcus King," he barked. "Court time." Marcus stood slowly. The hidden recorder taped beneath his clothes pressed against his skin. "Good luck," the teenager whispered. Marcus gave a small nod. "You too." Then the cuffs clicked shut around his wrists. And Special Agent Marcus Thorne disappeared completely. Courtroom 4B looked less like a courtroom and more like an assembly line built to process human misery. Families cried quietly in the gallery. Public defenders shuffled through mountains of paperwork. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry insects. And high above everyone sat Judge Elena Vance. Blonde hair frozen in place. Sharp glasses low on her nose. Expression full of contempt. She didn't even pretend to care anymore. A terrified father stood before her pleading over a loitering charge near a school while waiting for his daughter. Vance slammed her hand against the bench. Bail set at $50,000. Next case. Gasps spread through the room. Marcus watched carefully from the defense table. She wasn't reading files. She was profiling faces. Then the clerk called his name. State of Illinois versus Marcus King. Public defender Sheila O'Reilly rushed beside him carrying too many files and not enough sleep. "Your Honor," she began quickly, "the stop lacked probable cause." "Denied." Vance interrupted without looking up. "You haven't even heard the motion." Vance slowly removed her glasses and stared directly at Marcus for the first time. The courtroom went still. Marcus held eye contact. That alone offended her. "You're unemployed?" she asked coldly. "I'm a security consultant." She laughed openly. "A consultant?" "Sure." The courtroom reporter hesitated awkwardly. Marcus remained calm. "For the record, I never assaulted Officer Miller." "You speak when I allow it," Vance snapped. Then she leaned forward. "You have the look of someone dangerous." Moments later, she set bail at $200,000 cash only and ordered Marcus transferred to Crestview Correctional Facility, the exact prison connected to her kickback scheme. That was the moment Marcus knew she'd taken the bait. "Your Honor," Marcus said firmly, "I request to represent myself and demand an immediate evidentiary hearing." Vance smirked. She thought humiliating him would be entertaining. "Fine," she said. "Bring in Officer Miller." The corrupt cop swaggered confidently onto the stand and repeated the fabricated story about smelling marijuana and being attacked during the arrest. Then Marcus stood for cross-examination. The room changed instantly. His posture straightened. His voice sharpened. Confidence replaced submission. "Officer Miller," Marcus began calmly, "you testified that you smelled burnt marijuana. Yet lab reports show zero marijuana residue anywhere in the vehicle. Can you explain that?" Miller stumbled. The courtroom murmured. Marcus kept going. "You also claimed I struck your right shoulder with my right hand while facing you. Physically, that makes no sense." Laughter erupted in the gallery. Judge Vance slammed her palm down furiously. Marcus then revealed the fatal blow. The backup dashcam footage. Video proving Miller planted evidence and smashed his own tail light. The courtroom froze. Vance panicked. If that footage entered evidence, everything collapsed. "Motion denied," she barked. Even the bailiff looked shocked. "You are suppressing exculpatory evidence," Marcus said calmly. "I am the law in this courtroom," Vance screamed. Then she said the one thing she could never take back. "You're a thug." Silence filled the courtroom. Marcus slowly checked his watch. Then his voice changed completely. Cold. Controlled. Commanding. "Judge Vance," he said, "I'm giving you one final opportunity to recuse yourself." She laughed. "Or what?" Marcus lifted his hoodie slightly, revealing the FBI badge clipped to his belt. "I am Special Agent Marcus Thorne, FBI Public Corruption Task Force." The room exploded. Judge Vance screamed for the bailiff to shoot him. Officer Miller tried to flee. But before he reached the exit, the courtroom doors burst open. "FBI! Nobody move." Agents stormed the courtroom from every direction. The supposed law students sitting in the gallery revealed FBI jackets beneath their clothes. Miller collapsed immediately. "She made me do it," he cried. Marcus stepped toward the bench. "Elena Vance," he said, "you are under arrest for racketeering, wire fraud, conspiracy, and violation of civil rights." "You can't arrest me," she shouted. "I'm a judge." "Not anymore." The agents dragged her from the elevated bench she once ruled from. For the first time in years, she stood eye level with the people she had destroyed. And when the handcuffs snapped around her wrists, the sound echoed louder than any gavel she had ever slammed. Outside the courthouse, reporters flooded the streets. Marcus addressed the cameras while FBI agents escorted corrupt officials into waiting vehicles. He exposed everything. The kickbacks. The prison contracts. The secret payments tied to every illegal sentence. Over 400 wrongful convictions were immediately flagged for review. Families cried openly as Marcus announced their loved ones would finally come home. But Elena Vance still believed she could survive it. Until she reached federal processing. Her jewelry was confiscated. Her robes disappeared. The woman who once controlled lives now stood barefoot in an orange jumpsuit waiting for a mugshot. Later, inside an interrogation room, Marcus placed evidence after evidence in front of her. Bank records. Hidden recordings. Secret meetings with prison executives. Every lie shattered. When she demanded an expensive attorney, Marcus delivered the final humiliation. Her public defender would be Sheila O'Reilly, the same exhausted lawyer she mocked in court only hours earlier. Then came the worst news of all. No bail. And detention at Crestview Correctional Facility. The same prison where she had sent hundreds of innocent people for profit. Vance broke completely. She begged. Screamed. Promised to confess. But Marcus simply stared at her. "I'm just a consultant," he said quietly. 6 months later, Elena Vance was convicted on all charges. 25 years in federal prison. And by cruel irony, she was assigned to Crestview. When she arrived at the prison yard in chains, the inmates recognized her instantly. Women she had sentenced unfairly slowly surrounded her. Former victims. Forgotten people. People she once laughed at from the bench. She backed against the fence in terror while the guards looked away. For the first time in her life, Elena Vance understood fear. Back in Chicago, Marcus sat peacefully in a park watching one of the young men she helped imprison play basketball with his little brother. His phone buzzed with a final update. All 412 wrongful convictions overturned. Millions awarded to the victims. Justice restored. Marcus smiled quietly as the basketball swished cleanly through the net. A better sound than a gavel ever was.